take care of you.
So we're live. So welcome, Sarah. So can you just give us an explanation of what Mahouts stands for with your foundation, your Elephant Foundation?
So thank you for having me here. The foundation was started in 2014, and Mahout is the word for the man usually who takes care of the elephant, an elephant caregiver. And elephant is in there, so we wanted to combine very much the people and the elephant, so it became Mahouts Elephant Foundation.
Nice. And can you give us an insight into how this whole foundation got started?
We are so curious.
We're very curious about the story.
I can't wait.
So around 10 years ago, we were a family who went to travelling in Thailand for a month and wanted to do a volunteer project with elephants, and went to a working trekking camp where elephants are giving rides for tourists, and looked around us and just sort of had a life-changing moment, really. Just saw absolute depression and misery of all the elephants that were working, but also the people there as well. We saw a lot of exploited people and a lot of poverty, which really struck us. And at the time, there were a lot of animal organisations who were really campaigning against the cruelty of the elephants. And what we saw was elephants that coexist with people, and a lot of suffering from the people as well. So we researched for a long time all of the different models out there, how elephants are treated, the thousands of elephants in captivity, and where the people were coming from, because there were Mahouts and their families working in the cities with these elephants, and really wanted to find a solution that hadn't really been on the table before, and not to sort of shout at people and cause problem, but to look beyond that and create a solution for it. So we started as a family on a vacation, really, and then it led
on that vacation.
Yeah,
it's amazing. I love it.
So
I love
cool.
that story. I love the fact that, you know, as a family, you went on vacation, and then it hit your heart. You know, you felt that you needed to do something, and you actually did.
Yeah.
Because that is the thing. Because a lot of people just say, "Oh, this is terrible." Someone should do something, instead of taking it yourself. Like, well, I'm going to do something.
Well, that was exactly it. We looked around us and thought, why is nobody doing anything about this? And then it was just one of those moments. We love the natural world. We love, I've always loved elephants from a child. And as a family, we just felt like, you know, maybe we could do something about it.
But that was going to be my next question. Why did you, you loved elephants from a young age. Were you one of these where you collected little elephant models and everything had elephants on it? You know, like, I don't know what the craze is. What's the cat called? I can't remember what the cat's called.
A Garfield.
No, that's our time. For the girls, they have everything that's.
Unicorns. No,
Unicorn,
they're not real.
yeah, but they
My Little Pony.
My Little Pony, unicorns. So were you that kind of person that was crazy, had elephants all over the place? Or?
Not really. Animals, I loved animals, so I had lots of kind of cuddly animals around me, and just always had a fascination with elephants. Didn't really, I think, probably didn't realise till later in life that it was there so much, but just always, loved animals.
And was that the first time you actually seen elephants before? That at that time?
Yeah, probably. I think as a child, probably in a zoo in England, I'd seen them, and always wanted to. As I grew up, had various jobs, and always wanted to work with elephants. And actually, my husband Felix remembers our first conversation when we'd kind of just met, and I talked to him about this. I don't remember the conversation, but telling him that I wanted to work with elephants, but I couldn't do it for anybody else. I had to do it for myself, so I would never do it.
You said that?
Yeah, but I told him I'd never do it because it was impossible. And then, we kind of were searching for things on the internet when we took the children, were very young, to that first trip to Thailand. And the elephant project we went to just kind of leapt out from nowhere, really, on the internet, and started researching more and had no idea where that would lead at that time.
It's meant to be.
It's meant
what
to
a
be.
journey.
Yeah.
So I get goosebumps.
Absolutely.
From my toes all the way up here. It's so cool.
So, okay. So after you've been to Thailand and then you did your research, what did you find out about, how the elephants were treated or looked after, etc., etc., and what was going through your mind on how, what was the process of, putting this foundation together?
So a lot of years of research, which really was very, very important to fully understand the situation. It's very, very complex, very complex. The problems are complicated, but finding solutions to those problems are even more complicated. So what we really wanted to get to the bottom of was where the elephants were coming from. How were they ending up in these cities where there are no trees, no forests? So clearly that's not a suitable environment for an elephant to be in. And why were the people leaving and where did they come from? So that eventually that research took us to Karen communities, who are an indigenous tribe in Thailand who for hundreds of years left Myanmar and came and settled in Thailand. So we went to visit those Karen communities and just saw astounding things for elephants, beautiful communities for people, beautiful homes, and elephants living in huge areas, thousands of acres of forested natural habitat. And obviously this is the right place for both human and elephant. And it was kind of looking behind at what were the causes, why were these people leaving in their homes, their beautiful homes, and living in, shacks in cities made from corrugated iron and plywood with all of their family living in there, no access to running water, no electricity, like shanty towns in the middle of a tourist elephant camp where people were riding elephants right past these little shacks and not really noticing this abject poverty in the base of skyscrapers in cities where tourists would stay. So the research really led us to those villages, and then having discussions with village elders and trying to understand what leads them to leave in the first place, and realizing, the elephant tourism industry is booming. It makes a lot of money, but these vulnerable communities are really left out of that and forced into these sort of the poverty that they're in.
So why were they leaving their beautiful villages? What
because
was the reason?
the history of it is that captive elephants in Thailand were used for logging until the late 1980s. And there's an irony there in that these elephants were being forced to pull down their beautiful home, their forest, to send timber to the west for furniture. So quite rightly, in the late 80s, the Thai government banned logging, which was great, but there were thousands of elephants then left with no work, essentially. Not that elephants seek work, but it's kind of the Mahouts were left without work. So that would have been an expensive problem to fix. And the Western tourism market was booming at that time. So they were funneled into that. So that's where elephant tourism started. So in the logging days in communities, elephants would have stayed in the big forests. They'd have worked in logging, but have had a lot of time off. In wet season, they'd have just been left to roam in the forests. In the cities, they don't get that opportunity, so they end up on very short chains, living in very small areas of space. And, the communities don't want to always send their elephants away, but they've always had an income from these animals. So what's left? There's no, what's left to them but to leave to go to the city where the tourists are, to funnel into that traditional type of elephant tourism.
And I'm curious, with the elephants, do you have elephant farms? Yeah. How are elephants? How do you get more elephants? Do you have big farms where they breed the elephant? Yeah.
They've got better at breeding. There is some forced breeding that goes on, sadly, where the male and the female are kind of forced together. If you get the right situations, elephants will breed in captivity. So it's often done that way. They do use artificial insemination sometimes, but quite often if a male and female are left together, they kind of walk together for a few months, and that will result in a calf. So they're slow to breed, but they do breed.
Yeah.
So there used to be a history of elephants being taken a lot from the wild. So the last big herds are in Myanmar of wild Asian elephants. And they're poached. The babies historically have been poached from the wild for tourism. But with breeding kind of increasing, that's probably less than it used to be.
Do you have any idea of how many elephants there are in Thailand?
So in the captive population in Thailand is around 4,000 individuals. And the wild population it's increasing a little bit at the moment, but it's around 2,000 or just over 2,000. So again, you can see that number is not right. Really, it shouldn't be that way. And there is a distinction, captive and wild, but they're all elephants. Really, elephants don't know. Really, they don't understand if they're a wild or a captive. They just know they're an elephant, and they're not domesticated animals like horses or dogs. So elephants have never been through a domestication process. So they are captive wild animals.
Oh wow.
And that, again, creates problems for tourists because it's dangerous.
Yeah, you're sitting on a wild,
with a wild.
Absolutely.
Children are sitting on the back of wild animals that have to be well controlled to enable that to happen.
Wow. So I take it there's no regulation over the tourist industry with the elephants in Thailand?
There's more regulation coming in.
And is that by you guys as well, having influence?
That's hard for us because it's very difficult to be both a campaigning organisation and a solution-focused organisation. The two don't sit very well together. There's a lot of other groups campaigning from outside, and there is campaigning within as well. And there's a recognition of things needing to change, and there's a lot of people trying to improve welfare for those elephants in tourism. So, the vet care will be there, but our argument is if these elephants are not in those confined spaces in the city in the first place, you don't really get the complicated problems.
Yeah.
And spaces are our biggest thing that we talk about because they're a big animal. They travel long distances to forage for food. They need a lot of space, and that's what our projects aim to offer, is getting them back to those large forests where they can just roam for food and forage all day. Elephants eat 18 hours a day, so it's a constant eating process.
Wow.
So
they are eating just green, right?
Yeah, it's just vegetation, but complex. The diet is complex. And typically in the working places in the cities, they'll often be fed one type or two types of food. So it'll be grass and maybe corn. In the forest, we see them eating hundreds of different types of plants and herbs and bark from trees. They'll dig up the clay from the bottom of the rivers. So all types of different vegetation. And our Mahouts are very, very skilled and know every plant in the forest. And if one of the elephants is reaching for us or searching for a certain herb, they'll know that she's doing that for her tummy. She's got tummy problems and she's healing herself. So elephants are known to seek their own medicinal plants in the forest, and very intelligent animals.
Absolutely. So the ones that are captive, if they're only fed a couple of types of food, then that will have a knock-on effect with their having ailments, and that's why they need the vet attention.
Yeah, very prone. And the lack of movement, because they're chained on very short chains for most of the time when they're not working. So that lack of movement combined with a poor diet does lead to constipation issues and all kinds of dietary
poor elephant
problems.
So let's go into the actual foundation that you set up. Can you give us an insight into what it does?
So the aim of it is we started one project and walked the elephants home from where they were working, and that was filmed as a BBC documentary, and that was in 2015. So we walked those elephants back to the first community.
And tell how long it was, because that is very impressive.
Yeah, 8 days of walking with those elephants.
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. So that was our primary project, and the aim is to set up projects in these communities. So it's away from the city. They're often quite remote. But what we do in partnership with the communities is build a tourism model around their community. So we take the tourists out to the forest rather than
that's
elephants
where it should be.
Waiting
Absolutely.
for them. And, that's always been our belief, is that it's too easy at the moment for tourists to see an Asian elephant, and it's not everybody's right to see that animal. And that, to compromise their welfare that far, that an elephant is just waiting for you when you step off a bus chained up in a car park, is not right. And if you can't walk in a forest for whatever reason, then maybe you just don't get to see that animal. But, it should involve hard work, and it's more, we really make people see that they're entering the elephant's home. The forest is their home, and they're guests in that forest. And our base camp inside the forest, we put a fence around. It's actually for the buffalo, but it kind of gives the image of the people are inside that fenced area and the elephants are out in the forest.
Smart.
Coming to look at them. So it's kind of just flipping that model on its head a little bit and showing a different example.
Because you don't bring a lion into the city to show people what a lion does. You have to go out on a safari and actually see the lion in action and in the wild.
Yeah.
So why do people feel that they can bring such a beautiful animal into the city like an elephant?
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
So, how successful has it been, and what has the reaction been from the local community and the government?
It's been very positive. It's hard work, and we have a lot of sleepless nights, and a lot of tears have been shed over the years. It's very hard work, but seeing how the communities respond and how the elephants are living and the Mahouts just makes everything worthwhile. The response from the communities has been phenomenal. I mean, we make sure that we're in partnership, so we're not coming in as outsiders from other countries and, wagging our fingers and telling people off and dictating. That's not our model at all. So it's very much we sit down, we talk for hours, and we thrash out all of the problems. And the end goal is always the same, in that they want their communities to thrive, they want their culture to remain intact, they want the forest to be protected, and they want their elephants to have a good life in the forest. So we all share that same vision at the end, and we weave around to get there, but the end result is all of that. And we talk about our hopes and dreams together and work very, very much in partnership. So everybody has a voice. We empower the Mahouts, we empower the communities to speak up for their elephants. So the model is we're not buying anybody's elephant. They remain their elephants. The forest is all state-owned, and it's protected by the elephants being there. The danger is if the elephants leave, these communities then turn to cash crop farming, which is corn in Thailand. And we see areas of forest just decimated by corn farming. And that happens if the elephants leave. If the elephants stay, that forest is protected, because the community then they're empowered to really want to work with local government to protect that forest. So it's been superbly positive so far, really. And we have a lot of support from local government who really like our model of, not dictating to people, but very much working with, and we don't take anything away. We're just the charity is bringing to the community all the time. And it's a very protective, nurturing model. So it's been
very commendable,
very positive.
Yeah, that's great. And when you say you talk to the community, have you learned the local language, or how do you communicate?
I was thinking the same.
I understand a lot. My skills are pretty poor. I've always got somebody around me that is translating, which makes me quite lazy. And my excuse is, I live in an Arabic country, so I have to learn so many different languages. Our team are highly skilled, so between us all, even the Western ladies that work for us are fluent in Pakenyon, which is the Karen language now, which is amazing, and they're on the ground a lot more than I am. I'm trying to be there as much as possible. So between us all, we speak Thai, Karen, Mandarin, English. So there's a lot of languages going on within the team, and that's very important, that we've really taken time to gather a team around us who are totally as passionate as we are about the mission and understand it fully. And it really works, you know. We have very passionate people on the ground, and that core team is really, really important to moving things forward and working in that gentle manner.
Superb.
Thank
you, Sarah.
You've been
very enlightening.
Star. Wow.
It's an incredible story. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget our other podcast, Do I Heat, In the Game, and The Happy Munchies, our new food review.
Yay.
Have a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care of you.